guys, it's your girl Jupek and I'm back with another video. I'm back with another exciting video. But guys, before we move on to today's video, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe now. If you haven't liked any videos, like them now. In today's video, I'm just going to give you a brief history of what happens at maternity. So stay tuned. But the maternity unit is actually divided into 3 categories or 3 places. So maternity has the labor ward, the MHDU, that's the maternity high delivery unit. Yes. And we also have the lying-in. So we have 3 places actually. Let's start with the labor ward. The labor ward, like you heard, the labor ward is the place where pregnant women give birth. So there are principals at the labor ward. So with the cases that are transferred from the labor ward to theatre are patients with big abdomen. So when the pregnant one comes with a big abdomen, which means she can't pass through this normal birth unless CS. A baby is lying in the transverse position or the oblique position. It's called for an emergency CS. And we also have patients who can't give birth or patients who have had previous CS. So if the fetal heart rate is very high, the patient is sent to the theatre. If the vagina of the woman is not open, the patient is sent to the theatre. And if we have a preterm baby, the patient is sent to theatre. Let's move on to the admission of patients in the labor ward. So if the patient is on admission, the patient is transferred to the lying-in. That's where lying-in comes in. The patient is actually admitted when maybe the patient's time is due and there's still not any water break. And when the patient is having any inconveniences, like it's not time yet, but this patient has bleeding, this patient has all these inconveniences, the patient is admitted to the lying-in. Before admission, you take the patient's vitals, you take the patient's child sheet. Yes, that's asking the patient the questions and what actually brought this patient to the hospital that day, and the name of the patient, the age, and a whole lot. So at lying-in, the patient is monitored with the vitals, and that's when the patient is lying-in. We check for the dilation of the cervix. So if it is 3 centimeters, the patient is brought to the labor ward. Yes, that's for the admission. But if the patient is already at labor ward, we check for any complications, we assess the vaginal, we assess everything about this patient, we monitor vital signs, we examine her. So if the patient is in labor and is brought to labor ward, we first check the dilation. And with the dilation, the 1 centimeter means only one of the finger can enter her vagina, and if it is 2 centimeters, which means 2 and 3 and 4 as it goes. So if it is 10 centimeters, before the patient can finally give birth. So if it is 10 centimeters, it means your hands can enter into the woman's vagina. And if it touches a baby's head or any head, then it means this patient is finally in labor and can give birth. So with labor ward, that's the protocol. And at labor ward, we have a place for examination. Yes, that's when the patient is brought in first to check the dilation and everything. We have a place for that. And we also have a place where if the patient is in labor and the dilation has reached the 10 centimeters, we also have a place where the woman can give birth. And we also serve medications as prescribed by the doctors at the labor ward. And with the labor ward, the nursing station is in between where the woman is examined and where the woman gives birth. There is no case which is transferred from labor ward to MHDU straight. It's either labor ward to theatre, and from theatre, the patient is moved to the MHDU. So with MHDU, they handle cases from theatre. Yes, from theatre. And they also have protocols. That's transferring patients from theatre to MHDU. If the patient is bleeding, they do not accept such patient. If the patient is vomiting, they do not accept such patients. And if the patient's vital signs is below the normal range, they do not accept such patients. Like SpO2, which has to be 95% and above. If the patient has below the 95, they do not accept such patients. And if the patient is being trans-in from MHDU, the patient is going to be lying-in. So it's either from labor ward to lying-in or from MHDU to lying-in. And with MSDU2, what they do is they stabilize the patient, and it's usually done within 24 hours. Yes, it's usually done within 24 hours. And it has less than 10 bed capacity. If a patient is brought in, first thing we do is monitor her vital signs. Yes, that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing to do. And we check the time the patient was brought in. So if there's any medication, we serve the patient, we administer the medication, and if the patient becomes stable, the patient is transferred to lying in, like I said earlier. So with MSDU, nothing different. That's all we do there. And we also transfuse blood. The patient comes there with low blood hemoglobin level. The patient is transfused with blood. Most of the times it's supposed to be done at the recovery ward, but the recovery ward failed to transfuse the blood. MSDU do so. And if a patient is moved from MSDU, she goes to the line-in. In the line-in, it's just like the ward, the normal ward. Patients are sent there for further treatment. The patient is transferred from MSDU to line-in. The patient is stabilized in the MSDU and is sent to the line-in for recovery. If the patient gets better, the patient is discharged. Then from there, the patient goes home. But there are also cases where the woman is fine. That's at the labor ward after giving birth. The woman is fine, and the baby is also fine. So they are transferred to the line-in. They are monitored within 24 hours. Then they can be sent home. But one thing about labor ward is that, and before delivery, they actually check the patient's vital signs. Yes, they check the patient's vital signs before and after delivery, so that if there is any drop or any increase, appropriate treatment can be given. So that's all about the labor ward, the MSDU, and the line-in. The line-in is just the ward, basically like the ward. And at line-in, the patient is monitored. And after that, the patient is discharged. But guys, there was this patient who didn't have a child around. So she was complaining. She wanted to see a child. Her BP was rising there. She wanted to see a child. So she was accompanied by a nurse to go and see a child. But when the nurse got there, she saw this woman injured. So she decided to return back to MSDU. They waited for 2 hours and this woman wasn't coming. They called me home and were told this woman didn't come there at all. They found out this woman had escaped. And some people saw her on motor, but they couldn't complain. They couldn't say anything because they had no idea this woman had not been discharged. One thing is that she didn't go for her child. I think she knew her child won't be given to her if they haven't been discharged and if they haven't paid for their bills. So she didn't go for her child and she ran away. When we followed this case, her daughter came complaining she hadn't seen her mom in days. Like she hadn't seen her mom, and up to now she went home. So guys, you all thought that this is a big lie. How come you can't find your mom and you came back to pay the bills and you took your child with you? Guys, that's what happened. And I don't know whether it was a lie or it was the truth. But guys, thank you for watching this episode. Remember, it's a girl to pick. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're new here.